Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Jones-Cooper, and welcome back to Build. Actress Amy Hargreaves has worked in film, theater, and television, where she's known for playing Maggie Matheson on the hit show Homeland. In 2017, she took on the role of Lainie in Netflix series 13 Reasons Why, where she plays a mother concerned for her son after the tragic death of his classmate Hannah. Today, we're going to chat about season 2 of 13 Reasons, but first, let's check out a clip.
Clay, each side chooses witnesses based on a variety of factors.
Bryce raped Hannah. Why is nobody talking about that? You heard his confession, you heard everything before you dropped out of the case.
I didn't drop out of the case. I withdrew because your involvement created a conflict of interest.
Well, I'm not involved anymore, so can someone do something?
If we knew the name of the girl on tape 9.
I've told you, Mom, it's not my place to tell you that.
If she would come forward.
He confessed.
Clay, I'm worried about your anger.
I'm not angry, Mom. I'm fine.
That's why you're never home?
We had a deal.
You put a lock on your door.
Which you found out by trying to open it?
Clay, I know this is going to be very hard for you.
It's not. I haven't thought about Hannah in months. So I'll just keep on like that.
Everybody put your hands together for Amy. So we're going to talk about 13 Reasons, but first, you're a New York girl. You went to NYU, right?
I did. I went to NYU, right? A lot of my classes were literally across the street and up one block.
I love that.
Yeah, in the political science department. I went to NYU for my master's.
Okay.
But the funnier thing for me is this is the Tower Records building. I dated a guy who lived in this building. I mean, dated, we went out 3 times, but he had a really nice apartment in this building. And I remember being like, oh, I kind of... Yeah,
Should I make this work? Is
yeah,
that
it didn't
apartment?
last,
No,
but you know.
it never does.
Yeah.
But so how does it feel to be back in?
It's.
I'm a romantic,
Sorry.
can't you tell? How does it feel to be back in this part of town?
It's great. I love it down here. It's fun. Yeah. Washington Square Park is always fun. Yeah, it's true. I don't spend a lot of time down here anymore, so it's fun to be back. Hi, guys.
So you're here to talk about the second season of 13 Reasons Why, which was released on Netflix on May 18th. Did you guys get to check out some of the episodes?
Yeah.
This show is so intense.
I know.
What
I
has
know.
the reception been like so far with season 2?
I think it's been really emotional and mostly positive in my experience. The people who are reaching out to me on social media are overwhelmingly positive in the way that they connect with certain storylines on the show and the way that they feel that certain parts of the storyline are relevant to their lives. So that makes me feel good that we're connecting with audiences like that.
Do you find that a lot of people reaching out to you are students or are they parents? Because you play the parent of the protagonist.
Yeah.
So who do you think more connects to your character?
Well, I think that parents definitely connect to my character, but the people who reach out to me are young people. It's funny to see how just on social media things for me have really exploded since this show came out, because I have a lot of fans from Homeland, and that's kind of more of a Twitter following, but this is more of an Instagram following, and Twitter also. But yeah, I do have a lot of younger people who DM me and just leave nice comments about how the show's helped them a lot. So that makes me feel good.
So this has been one of the most successful shows on Netflix ever.
I know, I guess so, right?
So I'm assuming
it's hard
most
to know because it's kind of
Right.
secretive. But yeah, it seems that a lot of people are watching it.
Yeah. So I assume that most people sort of know what it's about, but for those who haven't seen, can you sort of break down the general theme of the show?
Well, the season 1 was based on, a novel called 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. It's the story of a young girl called Hannah Baker who has committed suicide, and in the wake of her suicide, she has sent, before she died, she sent 13 cassette tapes to different people in her lives that affected her and ultimately led her to a place where she considered, suicide as her only option. So the story starts out with the discovery of the tapes, and one by one, we follow each character as they listen to their tape and discover the story of why, what happened to Hannah Baker. And my character, I play the mother of Clay Jensen, who's the protagonist of the story, and he was in love with Hannah, and they had a very special relationship. And my character's a bit of a helicopter mom, a little over-involved in his life, and there you have it. And kind of as things fall apart during season 1, she gets more and more concerned about her son and his well-being.
That helicopter mom word has such a negative connotation, but I feel like in this community, that in 13 Reasons Why, you kind of have to be a helicopter parent.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Not just in 13 Reasons Why, but in like, I feel like it is reflective of teens' lives these days. I have a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, and I hate to say it, but yeah, a lot of these things are really happening. It really is relevant in the teens' culture today.
So in the end of season 1, we sort of are left knowing how Hannah ended her life, which is very sad. Where do we pick up now? Because there's a legal battle going on. So where do we kind of enter in season 2?
Well, we enter in with, there's a lot of different things that are going on. It's complex, but basically it's picking up where season 1 left off. So with the end of season 1, we had Hannah's version of the story. With season 2, we get to hear the other characters' versions of some of the same stories that we heard in season 1, because ultimately I know that Brian Yorkie, our showrunner, is interested in exploring what the truth actually means, because the two of us could be having an experience together. You have your version of the experience, I have mine, and the truth is somewhere in between. So we get to kind of revisit some of the things we learned about in season 1 from a different perspective, but we also follow up with the character of Bryce, who perpetrated not 1 but 2 sexual assaults in season 1. So there's a court case that's involved kind of in that, and the school district is being sued by the Baker's family for responsibility in her death. So there's a lot of kind of legal stuff that goes on as well in season 2.
And what's going on with your character? What can you give us?
Well,
because we had the cast here yesterday.
Yeah.
And they were very loose-lipped.
Were they? Because I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble.
They really were like, if you guys haven't watched it by now, we're just going to tell you what
I know.
happened.
I feel like the super fans have watched it, but
I would like to keep a little vague, but what's kind of going on with
It's not a
Lainie?
huge spoiler. Basically, Lainie has had to remove herself from the court case because of the conflict of interest of her son being so closely involved in Hannah's story, basically. So she has removed herself from the case, but her law firm is still working on the case. So she is kind of keeping an eye on it. And then in the meanwhile, on the home front, season 2 starts off 5 months after season 1 ended. So Clay has become kind of, he's evolved, you know, he's death
very
of,
angry.
Yeah, the death of Hannah has really had a huge effect on him. And this is another one of, there's so many mini themes to this show, but one of the things that Brian Yorkie's interested in exploring is how young boys become men, or how boys become men, and how they, you know, a big moment for them is that when they separate from their parents, and especially their mother. So you see the relationship with Clay and Lainie really evolve over the season, and she's kind of taking a small step back, he's taking a small step back, and also the relationship with the whole family at home is evolving, and for her work-wise. So there's a lot of interesting things that are on deck for Lainie.
Yeah, because Clay is sort of a sensitive kid, and he's sort of nerdy. He's not like this very masculine. So it must be kind of hard to, you know, you want to watch him grow and help him grow as a character mom. But it's like there's so many dangers out there.
Well, yeah, and if you go back through season 1, he got caught with weed at school. He came home drunk and threw up on the kitchen table. You know, that's just the surface of stuff. You know, and there was a suicide and an attempted suicide with the character of Alex. So there's a lot to worry about.
Yeah. So you mentioned suicide, and that was one of the kind of harshest criticisms against the show in the first season, is that it sort of glorified suicide. How did that change, do you think, how the director, how the showrunner, how the writers approach season 2?
I don't think it changed anything, honestly, in terms of the approach to season 2, because there was never any attempt to glorify suicide in the show. We wanted it portrayed as tragic and as lonely and as terrible as it is. That being said, Netflix really paid attention to some of the criticisms, and their interest is in making sure that everyone is safe and that the show is being seen by an appropriate audience. So for this season, they've put in a much more in-depth after show. We had Beyond the Reasons last year, but this year it's much more in-depth. There's also newer and better parental controls that Netflix has put into place, that with like a pin control, a pin code type of thing, where not just for this show, for any show, parents can set up on their Netflix, you know, if there's things that they don't want certain kids to see. So it might not be the show for everyone, and we encourage parents and families to talk about that and decide if it's right for them.
It does seem like Netflix took the criticisms very seriously. I know they conducted a study actually that I just read about today with Northwestern University,
Exactly.
sort of gauging how young viewers were responding and feeling after the show. And of course, they conducted the study, so you have,
But you take it with a grain of
yeah,
salt,
but
but-
still, one thing that I thought was interesting and probably true to the kids I know is that I think 78% of them actually said it made them think more about how their actions affect other students.
Absolutely.
And I think
Yeah.
that's, from watching this show for me as an adult, that was a takeaway of like, yeah, everything you do really does have a ripple effect.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that about our show. It really makes us, young people and their parents to take a step back and think about that. How we treat each other moment to moment really does have an effect on everyone's lives.
There's also the discussion guides that are available, and they sort of give a little more information on everything from suicide to sexual assault. Why do you think that was an important part to kind of add on, like an add-on for the show?
I think that Netflix really just took it to heart and said, let's go, as far as we can in terms of providing information to parents, to schools, to communities to help them deal with the tough issues that are brought up on this show, which is great because silence is bad. So all these awful things that happen in our show are really happening. They're really relevant. That's another thing that the study showed is that more than half of kids surveyed said that the issues that were brought up were relevant to them and they recognize them as things that happen around them. So Netflix is just trying to, we've started these conversations. So it's like, let's keep it going in a positive way. Another thing that came out of the study was I think a lot of parents and young people wanted to see us actors out of character. So, because I think that maybe for certain viewers, it might be a little difficult to separate the actor from the role. So we've done a lot of smaller info videos about bullying or sexual assault out of character as, us normal people. And those are popping up online now and I think are available at 13reasonswhy.info and on the YouTube channel as well.
That's really cool. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned just how topical the show is. And when we look at what was going on with the Me Too movement in the last year, you guys were obviously filming at that point. And
crazy,
I'm sure
right?
watching the headlines every day coming out, knowing that sexual assault is a major theme throughout, specifically season 2, with a lot of the characters sort of dealing with their own issues of being raped or knowing about a rape and not knowing how to report it and things like that. So what does it mean for you to have a show that's kind of talking about something that is so prevalent in our society right now?
I think it's enormous, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it because it's so, we're kind of learning, we're stumbling along here, learning as we're going, as feminists, as advocates, but obviously sexual assault. I mean, it was a big part of season 1 too, with both Hannah's character and Jessica's character being victims of sexual assault. But to pick it up with season 2 and really pursue those storylines while the whole Me Too movement came along was really just timely and amazing. I feel like it's a great way to help younger people and their parents be able to just open their mouths and talk about these things. And a lot of sexual assault is underreported. So if we can help give courage or the language or a platform for a young person to speak up if something has happened to them, then that's great. That's great.
I agree. When the Me Too movement, it's still going on, but it's so focused on Hollywood and actors.
Yeah.
But I think for a kid to see it in high school makes it a little more relatable and gives them the language if they ever encounter something to address it.
Absolutely. And even in season 2, no spoilers, but there's a new situation that arises, and it's I don't even know if I should get into that. I'm like wading into dark or deep waters, but we're hoping that people feel more comfortable talking about if they've been a victim of sexual assault and knowing, having the resources, offering them the resources to know where to go for help if that's happened to them.
And gun violence, unfortunately, is something that we deal with every day in our society, and it is a major theme in season 2 as well.
It's a major theme in our country right now. It's so
unfortunate.
disheartening.
But again, the timing of the show was almost too perfect, where, after the Santa Fe shooting, they actually had to put a pause on the LA premiere, just like, I think
we canceled it.
Yeah, just to...
Yeah, we canceled the premiere.
Pay respect.
We were all out in LA ready to go and put on our fancy clothes, and it just wasn't the right the right thing to do. We just didn't, so we pulled the plug on it, which, we obviously was the right move. Guns are everywhere. Yeah. And so we talk about that on our show.
Exactly. But I feel like in the show, the way that situation is handled is sort of how I hope that people will address it in real life. Like kind of stepping in before.
I see. Yeah.
Things
in the
kind of
in the
escalate.
finale, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily what happens.
Exactly.
But it's an interesting topic to explore, especially right now.
So while a lot of these topics are very heavy, you got to tell me, what do you guys do to lighten up this set?
Oh,
Like, is there any kind of fun? Like Bryce, for instance.
you want gossip?
Well, Bryce is just like a horrible character.
Justin Prentice.
Yes,
plays
but I'm sure in
Bryce.
real life, what is he like?
No, he's a sweetheart. It's so funny because he's literally the opposite of his character. He's the most terrible person on earth on the show, and in real life, he's adorable. I had at the beginning of season 2, I had a lot of the cast over to my little apartment because we shoot out in the Bay Area of San Francisco, so we all kind of converge up there and have apartments and things. So when we're not working, we kind of get together with each other because what else are you gonna do? So I had everybody over for dinner, but the place I was renting didn't have a dishwasher, and we were all outside and finishing up, and the dishes were piling up. I was just gonna do it later, when everybody left or the next morning. I come in the kitchen. Who has his sleeves rolled up and is knee deep doing the dishes is Justin Prentice.
Guys, he's a good guy.
I mean, and I was like, really? No, stop, go away. He's like, no, this is how it is. I'm like, okay. So he's that kind of person, really a solid, decent, fun guy. So.
And you play a mom on the show. A lot of these actors are younger than you.
Yeah.
What is that dynamic like for you? Is it fun? Do you feel
it's
motherly?
Totally, I do.
Yeah.
What's fun is like I can split the difference because we're peers, because we're working together, so we're friends like that. But I'm also kind of like a mom unit, so I get to kind of do both and kind of keep an eye on things, but also have fun with them too. So yeah, we get together for nice dinners and stuff. But I'm always like, you better behave yourself. Yeah.
Don't go too far.
Exactly.
We also know you from Homeland.
Yeah.
I have to, last season, there's the whole court case where she's going to get custody of her niece, your character.
Yeah. That poor Franny, she needs a break.
That scene where you're talking directly to Claire Danes is so emotional, and I feel like anybody with a sibling can really relate to just you love this person, but you just know this person. How did you prepare for that monologue?
That was like a 5-page scene, which in TV is a lot. So it was a lot. How did I prepare? I really just went to the words on the page. Those writers are so talented there, and they wrote this beautiful season for me, really. It was just a whole lovely arc. So that court case, that court scene really felt like the culmination of everything we'd been working on all season. So I just always start with the words and end with the words. And Dan Attias was our director on that episode. And we kind of took some time together to talk about, what the scene was going to be, what it wasn't going to be. And he helped me kind of find clarity. And then we just let it rip. And honestly, when I look, it's so lovely working with Claire Danes. When I look her in the eyes and we speak to each other on, when we're filming, it's just something clicks in. We've been playing pretend sisters for so long now. It's kind of an easy little vibe to drop into. So
season 7 just ended.
Yep.
And we're going into season 8 whenever that happens, and
Right.
that'll be the final season.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. So
Yeah.
it looks like it's going to be the final season unless something miraculous happens. I don't know.
So what are your hopes going into season 8, just for
Well,
everybody, for
I
the
want
story?
Carrie Matheson to stay safe. I worry.
She's a bit reckless.
I'm kind of a fan of the show, besides being on it. She's a bit reckless. So I'm hoping that Franny has a nice, peaceful year, with us in Virginia, or wherever, D.C. I think we're supposed to be in Virginia, yeah. And that, Carrie Matheson can go save the world and then come home again and join us.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect time to open up for some questions in the audience. We have one right there.
Hi.
I was just gonna ask, if you could be anybody else's mom on the show, whose mom would you be besides him?
Oh, wait.
I know,
have
I
you
had to
guys,
take it there.
Have you watched season 2 yet?
Yeah, I'm almost into the 5th episode, so.
Okay. Gosh, who else's mom? I have to say that Brandon Flynn's character, Justin, because he really doesn't have much of a home life,
Right.
you know?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good.
Is that a good answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was such like a
only
good
character that
mom
doesn't have a
answer.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like a good. Like I can tell you
feel
have. I can
bad.
tell you have teenagers.
I do. It's sad. It makes me sad. The show, like when we do our table reads of 13 Reasons Why, because like before we shoot, we block shoot, which is 2 episodes at a time. So we get together, the whole cast around a big table with the executives and the writers and things, and we just read 2 episodes in a row. You know, we've just gotten them. Basically, we read them through and just listen and inevitably we're all sobbing by the end of the episode because it's so emotional. It's so rough, you know? So it's a lot.
Who's next?
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, do your children watch the show, and what are their thoughts on your character?
My daughter watches the show. She's 15. And what are her thoughts on my character? I mean, they make fun of me. Are you kidding me? Like I'm like the big takeaway from season 1 was there's like a flashback scene when Clay's going to the party and he's like all dressed up and put on cologne and whatnot. And I say something like, don't do hard drugs. No, I say, don't do hard drugs. Don't do any drugs as he's running out the door. And my kids like parrot that back to me all the time. And this season, I think it's that cringy scene early on when Sky comes over for dinner and I'm like, what does hookup mean anyway? Is that slang for sex? And my kids are like dying. So yeah, they make fun of me basically. But my son, who's a senior, he hasn't even watched it. He's watching like Narcos. I don't know what he's doing. I make fun of him for that. I'm like, oh, you don't even care enough to watch your mother's TV show. Every other teenager has watched it.
Has that enabled you to have any conversations with them about some of the topics of the show, or at least with your daughter?
Yeah, definitely with my daughter. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's like kind of our private stuff. But yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Again, it's just facilitating that conversation I think that a lot of parents want to have. And one last question before we go. Back there.
I wanted to ask, how deeply has it impacted you on like far as like real life, knowing that the issues that you guys face on the show, and how has it impacted you as far as your kids and like in a reality?
Yeah, I feel like it's a good question. I feel like it's opened my eyes to really like current day teenagehood and made me realize even more the effect of like, I mean, it's silly to say it, but like social media, being connected 24/7, all the Snapchat stuff. My daughter put Snapchat on my phone. She's like, yeah, I have Snapchat. I'm like, I can't figure that out. Like, I can't. So, but I realize like they have it all, and it's all the time. It's 24/7. So when that one thing gets out, like in season 1 with the picture of Hannah, you know, the upskirt picture, it's like, boom, in 15 minutes, everybody has it. So I've learned stuff, you know, playing Lainie Jensen, helicopter mom. So.
Well, Amy, it's been so great chatting with
you too.
I have to go finish season 2. I have like 3 more episodes left.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I just finished. I just finished 7, I think. But it's like it was 6 months ago, so I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot about this. You know.
If you guys haven't checked it out, it is available on Netflix now. So go check out season 2 and give it up for Amy.
That was so fun.